Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here to break down the 7-game NBA main slate on Friday. A couple things before I get in the video. If you're new to the channel, my name's DK. I make daily videos talking about NBA DFS as well as NFL DFS. I'm also running a weekly $20 PayPal giveaway on my channel. How it works, all you have to do is leave a like and a comment in the video. That's one entry in the giveaway. Max one comment per video. So it starts with my Monday NBA video that I uploaded at the beginning of the week. We'll go throughout the week. We'll end my Monday NBA video at the end of the week. So however many videos I've uploaded for the week, you're going to give away that many times. If I have 10 videos uploaded for the week, you're going to give away 10 times. And again, the winner receives $20 PayPal for myself. But with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. So first, let's look back at my lineup here from Thursday night. So Thursday, I went with Elfrid Payton, D'Angelo Russell, Cam Johnson, Julius Randle, DeAndre Ayton, Monte Morris, Michael Porter Jr., and Nikola Jokic. A little bit frustrating here with Elfrid Payton. The game was close until the end. He only got 24 minutes, so that was kind of out of nowhere. He had been getting about 30, 32 minutes a game, so this was a bit unlucky here for sure. Like if he gets those extra 8 minutes or so, he definitely gets us there. So I feel like we did get a bit unlucky there. Kind of got shorted out of minutes out of nowhere. It's looking like it could be back to David Fizdale situation with these point guards. So definitely something to note there for Elfrid Payton in the future. Cameron Johnson, 3.1K, was perfectly fine for his price. Again, he opened up a lot if you plugged him in as a value play. Julius Randle was pretty solid there at 8K, 43.5. And then the huge big play here was DeAndre Ayton. Once he got started, I had a good amount of interest in him. Almost 60 fantasy points, 26 and 21. So huge night there for Ayton. And then I kind of went with the Denver Golden State stack here then with D'Angelo Russell, Monte Morris, Michael Porter Jr., and Nikola Jokic. Now, a couple games I talked about here, the Boston-Milwaukee game, it looked like I was doing good at first because that game was a blowout, and then Kemba just turned it on in the second half. And I think he has 40 real-life points right now, but he was the guy I mentioned that had the most upside there from Boston. So yeah, it looks like that game, it stayed close, and it turned into a gold mine. Like I said if that game stays close, you're going to want some pieces to it. Kemba was obviously amazing. Giannis is having a pretty big night from what I see. And then also the Jazz-Pelicans game, which I had no exposure to. Guys I liked, Ingram, Donovan Mitchell on the other side. That game went to overtime. So I feel like we got a bit unlucky here with that, the Celtics-Bucks game staying close, at least for me, and then the Pelicans-Jazz game going to overtime. So going to need a huge performance here from Denver Golden State to get in the cash here for tournaments. But, yeah, that's basically what I had. So that wraps it up for first Thursday. So let's move on and talk about Friday slate. So 7 games, a good size slate. Again, I think like 6 to 8 games is a sweet spot for slate. So this is definitely a good size NBA slate. Let's take a look at some numbers here. What are the games that are out right now? So we have the Bulls 76ers sitting at 216.5. The 76ers are by 7.5. We have the Wizards Raptors sitting at 229 with Toronto favored by 10. We have the Cavs and the Grizzlies sitting at 229. Memphis favored by 8. And then we have the Hawks and the Spurs sitting at 230.5 with the Spurs favored by 8.5 points. So, as always, the Star Center. Once again, I'm going to continue to assume Karl-Anthony Towns is out because he's missed, 20 straight games, so they have him listed as questionable, so there's just no point in projecting him to be in. With him out, you can look to secondary pieces, right? Gorgie Jang has some upside, but his minutes are very up and down. Andrew Wiggins gets a boost. They did ship Jeff Teague out of town on a trade, so a guy like Shabazz Napier gets a boost. A guy like Jared Culver gets a boost. I actually talk about them. Normally, Minnesota's a team I just like, if you want to take a shot for GPPs, that's fine, but they run a really deep rotation. But I actually have a little bit more interest here if Cat is out because no Jeff Teague. I think that should solidify the minutes for Napier and Jared Culver, but who knows? They could always add another guy off the bench. Again, Ryan Sanders and his rotations are very, very wacky. We got DOMANTAS SABONIS at 8.6K, and I think he stands out as a pretty good play here. Look what he just did against Minnesota the other night. In 36 minutes, 58 fantasy points. Really good spot here. Sabonis has a really high floor, and I don't think his price is up high enough. So I do like Sabonis a good amount here at this price. I think he stands out as a really safe option. I also like HASSAN Whiteside at 8.4. So after that surprising game where he got limited, I think it might have had to do something with that illness he was dealing with and that Tolliver just shot lights out. But back to normal here. He played 37 minutes that last game against Houston, had 45 fantasy points. So if he's going to continue to play his minutes into the mid-30s, you've got to have interest at this price. It's not moving enough. So I do think HASSAN Whiteside stands out as a really solid play. Don't mind Bam either at 8.2. I think I would give the edge to Whiteside, who's at price similar. I just like his upside a little bit more. Now the Toronto guys, this is tricky because this is a really good matchup, but they're starting to get everyone healthy. We even have the possibility of Fred VanVleet coming back. And no one's playing a huge minutes, right? Siakam has played 30 minutes in the last couple games. Normally, he was a guy, like, before he got injured, he was playing almost 40 a game. So I like the matchup. I like the price, but I need to see him play more minutes before I can target him confidently right now. And again, Toronto getting very, very healthy. So it's a tricky spot for them for sure. John Collins at 7.7, I think, stands out as an okay option. I do like this game in general. It does stand out as a pretty appealing game to target guys for DFS on the Spurs side. DEMAR, DEROZAN, Marcus Aldridge. On the Atlanta side, Trae Young. I don't mind John Collins. So, yeah, he's an okay option. I don't think he stands as a great play, though. Porzingis is 7.7. So, weird situation the other night. They had him listed as probable all day and then randomly just got ruled out. So, something to keep an eye on for sure. If he misses, obviously Luka becomes a top spend up, but he's also very, very expensive. Also, if Kristaps does miss, you can consider guys like Kleber, can consider guys like Powell, but though their minutes are very up and down as well. Philly, so DraftKings did a better job here pricing up the Philly guys. I was really high on the Philly guys that last game against Brooklyn. All three were really good. Now I think Horford is priced accordingly, right? 7.5. I still think he's an okay option, but he's not like one of my favorite plays like he was the other night. SERGE BAKA, again, it's just getting tough with these Toronto guys to target him because we have Marcus Gasol back, Ibaka, Siakam, possibly Fred VanVleet. They could have everyone back now. So it's a situation, it's tricky because it's a really, really good matchup, but I don't think anyone's going to play big minutes besides the guy like Kyle Lowry, who's been playing just huge minutes no matter what. Now, LaMarcus Aldridge, I know he's had a couple off games, 24 and 20 fantasy points in back-to-back games, but this is the get-right spot here against Atlanta. Also, DeMar DeRozan has been playing really, really well, kind of limiting LaMarcus Aldridge usage. But again, this is a spot where I think both of them could get you there in one of the best possible matchups here against Atlanta, who play at a very, very, very fast pace and play like no defense. So I do like both those Spurs guys a good amount with Aldridge, with DeRozan. I also have some interest here in this Memphis-Cleveland game. Jonas Valanciunas, 6.9K. What's good to see is those minutes the last three games. 30, 29, and 28. Even against Houston, a team that runs kind of more small ball, up-tempo, he's still got 28 minutes in the game. So this is good to see that he's getting those minutes. Obviously, Cleveland runs big too, so I think he's kind of locked into those minutes. I don't think this would be a game where he would randomly play like 22 minutes unless he gets in foul trouble. So I think we'd probably get close to 30. And if that's the case, at 6.9K, I think he does stand out as a pretty good option here. Don't mind a Triple J either at 6.8. Again, he's been doing a better job staying out of foul trouble. Him and JV are very similar. I think I would give the edge slightly to JV. I think his upside is a little bit higher. But don't mind JJJ either. Tristan Thompson, 6.5K. Again, this game in general does stand out. Two bad teams that don't play a whole lot of defense. We have a 229 over-under and only 8-point spread. So, again, those two Memphis bigs I talked about, I have some interest in Tristan Thompson at 6.5K. Let's see. Steven Adams at 6.4 is an okay option. Turner at 6.1, probably not for me with Sabonis healthy. Markkanen, not for me at that price. And Gorgie Jang is a guy you can take a shot on. His minutes are just all over the place, right? 17, 19, 16, then gets 29 the last game. It's just, it's so risky to target him because in a game that stays close, he could play like 15 minutes. He could also play 30 minutes. That's why I just hate seeing Minnesota on the schedule. It's just because you just never know what's going to happen in those rotations. Obviously, if Cat somehow plays, then you can't go Gorgie Jang. But if Cat's out, you can consider Jang. I just have no idea what his minutes are going to be like. Again, guys like Powell, guys like Kleber, you can consider these guys. They seem to be very, very up at like every, or at least like look at Powell's minutes, right? 26, 35, 24, 35. So very, very up and down. You got to hope if you play him that he gets to the higher end of those minutes. But again, Rick Carlisle and his rotations are also a headache with those secondary pieces. Let's see, a guy like Luke Kornet. So we have Daniel Gafford out as well as Wendell Carter Jr. still out. So Kornet played 35 minutes the last game. Now, I don't know if we can expect that again. They have Markkanen, they have Thad Young they can use. So we'll see what they end up doing with the starting lineup. If he starts, I guess I would have a little bit of interest, but 4.9K does feel like a lot to pay for Luke Kornet. So Marc Gasol, I actually do have some interest here. I know everyone's getting healthy there for Toronto, but in his first game back, he played 32 minutes. So, yeah, if Marc Gasol is going to play over 30 minutes at 4.8 in this matchup here against Washington, I actually do have some interest there at that price. Again, we have no Gafford, we have no Wendell Carter Jr., so Chicago pretty thin right now. Damian Jones, I mean, I liked him at mid-price the other night, but now he's at 4K. I don't think I can go there. Thomas Bryant still being limited. I can't do that yet. Larry Nance and Kevin Love back, not for me. So, yeah, that's basically it. So let's move on to power forward. Again, I already talked about really liking Sabonis. Draftkings did a good job pricing up these Philly guys. Tobias, Al Horford, Ben Simmons, all seem priced about right. Now, he had a really good game. He took over there in the second half, 34 real-life points, 56 fantasy points. Obviously, Tobias can have these upside games in him. So, I think he's okay, again, but I don't think he really stands out as a great play right now. Kevin Love at 7.2. This game does stand out as a pretty appealing game. And the good thing with Kevin Love is to the minutes that we've seen recently, right? Like normally he was, earlier in the season, he was getting maybe 30, now 36, 38, 37, 33 minutes. That game was a blowout. So he's been getting a lot more minutes, like over 35, which is really good to see. If it looks like that's going to continue. And this match against Memphis plays a really fast pace. So, yeah, I have some interest in Kevin Love as well at this price. I think he does stand out as a pretty good option. Let's see. Other options. Melo's okay, actually, at 6.2. We know he's going to play the big minutes. He can be a little bit scoring dependent at times, but 6.2 is a very fair price. Bertans is still being limited, 26 and 26 minutes in back-to-back games. Like no one is playing big minutes right now in Washington. Kind of everyone's healthy, so Washington as a team is just not super appealing for me. OG Anunoby did have a big game the last game at 39 minutes, but again, we're getting a lot of guys back, possibly Fred VanVleet back too. So it makes it tricky with these Toronto guys for sure. Rudy Gay at 4.5 is, okay, a cheap option in a fast-paced game. I'm okay with him. He probably gets 20 to 25 minutes. Don't really think he stands out, though. Yeah, so on a slate that lacks value, I guess I'll bring up MEYERS. Now, I feel like it's been a curse every time I bring him up because I remember I talked about him being a good value play the first game of the season, and he played like 20 minutes and had like 2 fancy points. And I brought him up one time a few weeks ago. I believe it was this game against the Pacers. He had 19 minutes and 2 fancy points. So it seems like it's a curse whenever I bring him up. But there really isn't a whole lot of value plays in the slate. And he has gotten 30, 27, 24, 28 minutes. So he's getting, mid-20s minutes with a little bit more upside. Not a guy that has huge fantasy upside. But again, this slate doesn't really have a lot of value plays. And at 3.9K, I think he is in play. But that's really it for power forward. So let's talk about small forward. Ben Simmons at 9.3. Again, DraftKings, they did a good job pricing these guys up. Now I think he's priced accordingly. The matchup in Chicago is okay. So yeah, I'm okay with Ben Simmons to spend up. The good thing with him, again, is he always hits those peripheral stats. He can have big upside games in him. We've seen 60, 70 from him this season. Again, still no Joel Embiid, so there's a lot of usage to go around for those big four of Philly. So I have some interest in Ben Simmons, but he seems priced about right. Now we get to DeRozan, right? 8.1K, he's been playing phenomenal. It's been limiting LaMarcus Aldridge's upside, but look what he's done the last 4 games. 34 minutes, 44 fantasy points, 38 minutes, 62 fantasy points, 35 minutes, 44 fantasy points, and 35 minutes, 49 fantasy points. He's getting the peripheral stats right, the rebounds, the assists, he's scoring the ball well. You can't get a better matchup here than against Atlanta, so I have a lot of interest in Aldridge. I have a lot of interest in DEMAR DeRozan. I think this game really stands out as a game you're going to want some pieces to. Jimmy Butler had a surprising, really bad game there against the Spurs. 34 minutes, 25 fantasy points. really, really floor game for Jimmy Butler there. This season he has been pretty consistent, so that was a bit surprising that he had that low of a fancy outing. The good thing is the price dropped, right? 7.8K. The matchup against OKC is fair. It's not like a great one, but it's not a bad one. So, yeah, I think the price tag does make Jimmy Butler a pretty solid play. Beal, I just can't recommend any of these Washington guys with confidence. No one's playing big minutes, right? Beal was the guy who was getting close to 40 normally, but now 27 and 27 in back-to-back games. I can't target him until I see him play more minutes. Now, Wiggins, hasn't been great recently, but with Jeff Teague out of town, hopefully Minnesota shortens that rotations, but it's Ryan Sanders. There's always a chance he just adds another body to that rotation. I think he's an okay option. I think his upside maybe goes up a little bit with no Teague, but not really, doesn't really stand out as like a great play to me. Josh Richardson at 6.6 is fine. The good thing with him is the minutes. We know he's going to play about 35 or so in a close game. He doesn't have as much upside as those other Philly guys have talked about, but the price tag is, he's an okay mid-range option. Again, doesn't really stand out, but I think he's fine. Dylan Brooks is 5.8K, so did have a good game the last time out against Houston. My concern with him is he's very scoring dependent. And 5.8 does kind of feel like a lot to pay for him. It is a good matchup, but I don't know. It just seems like he's slightly overpriced right now. Powell 5.5. I just don't think I can do it. It's an okay price, but doesn't really stand out there. There's really not a whole lot I like here in this value range, like DFS, Cam Reddish, no. CD Osman, 4.7 is okay, but he got like a $700 price bump from that game against the Lakers. Bazemore, he had a good game, but his price jumped way up to 4.6. I don't really want to pay 4.6K for Bazemore. Yeah, there's really not a like Thibault picked up a start, played 27 minutes. He's an okay option. He is a guy that always gets like blocks and steals, it feels like. So yeah, I'm okay with him as a cheaper option. Again, there's really not a whole lot of great value plays in my opinion. And that's really it. So let's talk about shooting guard here. Zach LaVine at 8.7, I think does stand out as a pretty decent option here because Chicago's just very thin right now, right? No Wendell Carter Jr. Lauri Markkanen is playing really bad, so I don't really have a whole lot of interest there. We have no Daniel Gafford too, so they are kind of thin. LaVine, what we know is he's going to be the main guy right in the offense. He's going to shoot the ball probably over 20 times as this game stays close. I know the matchup not really that great here against Philly, but if Chicago is going to keep this one close, most likely it's because of Zach LaVine. So I'm okay with him there at that price. Again, I already talked about really liking DeRozan and Aldridge. Fred VanVleet at 7.9 is questionable. This is obviously something to keep an eye on. If he's available to play, that's a downgrade to Powell. That's a slight downgrade to Kyle Lowry. We'll see. Again, no one. I think actually my favorite play on Toronto would be Marc Gasol, as surprising as that sounds, just because he got like over 30 minutes. But yeah, it's a tricky situation. I feel like I should like more in Toronto, but no one really standing out as a great play to me. Let's see. SGA at 7.4 has 2 pretty solid games in a row. I'm okay. If you like riding the hot hand, that's fine. But this is a tougher spot. I will probably fade, but I get it if you want to go to him. Again, he's been playing some really good basketball. I do think CJ stands as a pretty decent option here at 6.8. What we know from him is he's probably going to play 35 to 38 minutes. He is a guy that, can take over games at times. He can have upset games. He can get you 40, 50 fantasy points on a good night. So I think CJ does stand out as a pretty decent option there in the mid tier. Kevin Huerter, I like the spot here. Again, I have a lot of interest in this game. I think the ownership is going to be inflated at that last big game. 58 fantasy points, kind of an outlier game in my opinion, right? 23 points, 15 rebounds, 8 assists. I don't think we can expect that again from him. Now, he has been playing pretty solids here for sure, but I don't know. I think I prefer, DeRozan and Aldridge for a bit more in the same game. I definitely prefer if you can get up to Trae Young. So I'm fine with Huerter if you want to save some money here and get, some cheaper exposure to this game, but I just think the ownership is going to be inflated after that last big game. So Kendrick Nunn had a big game 31 minutes, 48 fancy points at 33 real life points. The issue is, right, the price tag, 6.2K, and again, I think the ownership might be a little bit inflated at the last game, so I'm going to pass there. Yeah, so Culver, I have some interest here, 5.9. You know, the price tag isn't very appealing, but with Teague out of there, he could, you know, maybe get a little bit more point guard duty. His usage should go up a little bit. The concern is that Minnesota just gets another body in the rotation, so that is, again, that is concern there with Ryan Sanders and his rotations. Hero's questionable again, so if he misses, those secondary pieces, Dragic, Derek Jones Jr., again, Kendrick Nunn, we just saw it a big game. Those guys will get a slight minutes boost. But yeah, like the value is just really not here on this slate. I don't see anything. So normally those Spurs guards, right, with Mills, White, and Forbes, I have like very little interest. But there's really not a whole lot of value plays. So I think these guys are actually viable right now as value plays. Patty Mills, you know, probably gets somewhere between 22 to 28 minutes. Derek White, kind of like all these guys will get about low to mid 20s minutes. All three of these guys, they're very, very similar. I think one or two of those guys will probably have a big game, and on a slate that lacks some value plays right now, I think all three of those guys are actually pretty solid value plays as it stands. Now, I'm making this video Thursday night at 9:58 p.m. right now. A lot of things can change. There can be some value that opens up, but as of right now, there's really nothing that stands out. That's why I brought up Meyers Leonard, right? That's why I'm bringing up these Spurs guards that I normally just kind of poo-poo. But I think Mills, White, Forbes are actually viable value plays. That kind of wraps up shooting guard, so let's talk about point guard. So, Luka Doncic, 12.4K. So again, surprisingly, in the game against the Kings, they had Porzingis a late scratch. He had 70 fancy points. So the upside is still there with Luka. It's just, you know, do you feel comfortable with enough value plays right now? Right now, on this slate, there is not a lot that I'm comfortable with. So if there is stuff that opens up throughout the day, I'm fine with getting Luka. Portland, not good defensively. His upside is massive if Kristaps is out. Now, if Kristaps Porzingis plays, I think I would be off Luka at this price. But if Kristaps is out once again, I think you can go to Luka. It's just you're going to have to sacrifice a lot to get him in. Now, Trae Young, I like a good amount at 10.2K. You know, the last game against Phoenix, 38 minutes, 63 fancy points. His upside is pretty high, especially in this matchup. This game in general really stands out to me. It's sitting, they don't have, oh, they do have it out, 230.5, 8.5 point spread. So, yeah, I do like Trae Young a good amount there at 10.2. The one-off game there against Washington, he just kind of got limited to 31 minutes, kind of out of nowhere. But normally, right, 39, 39, 38. So he's going to play almost 40 minutes. I do have a good amount of interest there in Trae Young at that price. Don't mind Lowry. I still think he's going to play the big minutes. You know, even if Fred VanVleet comes back, I still think Lowry gets, you know, mid-30s minutes. The issue here is the price, right? 8.8. It's a good spot, but again, Toronto getting very, very healthy. Like, I just don't think anyone really stands out. I feel like I should like more on the Toronto side, but nothing really standing out to me. Dame Lillard at 8.5 is always viable. You know, 35, 36, and 38 minutes the last 3 games. His upside, he can still have, you know, 40, 50 fancy points on a good night. So I'm okay with Lillard at that price. John Morant, I wanted to play him tonight, but man, 8K. I know he's been playing really good, but I just don't know if I can pay 8K for him. Now, again, really good spot. Like I said, I wanted to play him. I wish he was still in like the 7K range or like low 7s. 8K, he seems priced right. Like, you can still go there, but I don't really think he stands out as like a great play either. Now, Malcolm Brogdon at 7K, I think, does stand out as a pretty decent option. 34 and 31 minutes in the 2 games that you know, he's returned from injury. 46 and 37 fantasy points. The thing I like about him always is he fills up the stat sheet. So I have interest. I have a good amount of interest in SABONIS. I have a good amount of interest in Malcolm Brogdon. A good spot here against Minnesota, right? So those two do stand as pretty decent options. Chris Paul, after letting a lot of people down there against Minnesota, had a nice bounce back game there against Toronto. 46 fantasy points. I still think he's slightly underpriced. at 6.9K. The issue is not really the best spot here, but 6.9, I think he's about 500, 500 to maybe $1,000 too cheap. Let's see, other options. DeJounte Murray, if you want like a cheaper piece in this high over-under game, I'm okay with. He hasn't been great recently, but we know like he has got early this season. He does still have upside, right? He can get you 40 fancy points in like 28 minutes. So I'm okay with Murray there. Don't mind Dragic either, especially if none is out. I think he would be a decent, mid-tier play. Now Shabazz Napier, again, I have some interest here. Normally Minnesota is a team that kind of is right off, but with Jeff Teague now out of town, I think that kind of solidifies the minutes for Napier. Now, the worry is that Ryan Sanders just adds another body in the rotation, right? He could add like Jordan McLaughlin, who, let me go to Minnesota. Like McLaughlin has gotten minutes before in the past, right? So he's the guy that could enter the rotation, and I actually think that is a decent, like that's a decent chance that could happen. So that is the concern, right? Is just they just add another body and no one plays big minutes still. Again, they've been running 10, 11-man rotations, so I have some interest in Napier, I have some interest in Culver, but not a whole lot still, just because I just can't trust. His rotations. Jeff Teague's not going to be available for Atlanta's first game. Again, he got traded to the Hawks. But that kind of wraps it up. So yeah, like I wish I could be more confident right now in the value, but there is like nothing. There's nothing that stands out. Hopefully, a couple plays open up throughout the day, but as it stands right now, there really isn't any value plays that stand out. That's why, that's why I brought up MEYERS LEONARD. That's why I brought up those Spurs guards, just because there's just not a whole lot right now. But as far as game stacks go for the 7-game slate, if you're interested in stacking game for GPPs, I definitely like that Atlanta-San Antonio game a good amount. I also like Cleveland-Memphis. And then, let's see. Don't mind Portland-Dallas, but a lot of guys are expensive in that one. So, yeah, I think that's going to do it for today's video, guys. So if you have been enjoying the content, would really appreciate if you could like this video and subscribe. Again, if you want to get entered in the giveaway, all you have to do is a like and a comment in the video. That's 1 inch in the giveaway. I will be live streaming for the 7-game slate, probably about 45 minutes before lock on my YouTube channel. So be sure to check out the live stream. I will go over all the news that we get throughout the day, as well as kind of give you guys my core plays for cash games, and then I will answer any questions you guys have. So very important to follow, or very important to check out the live stream tomorrow. But thanks again for everyone to come in to check out the video, and I will see you guys all tomorrow in the live stream.